Hi, everyone. We have a mic on? Yeah, there we go. Nice to be with you. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Frank Ostaseski, Franco. And nice to be with you. It's one of my favorite places to be here in Big Heart City. So I think we'll sit for a little bit first, huh? Let's put down whatever we're holding on to, our bags or drinks or ideas. Just set them down on the floor. You know, one of the things about meditation, which I think is useful to remember, is don't add anything extra. So that means don't try too hard. Don't try to control anything or resist anything. It's just the simplicity of this moment. Awareness is already here. You don't have to generate it. It's nothing particularly special. But it's helpful to have certain conditions that support the practice. One of those is attention to the body. Feeling your feet on the floor if you're sitting in a chair. Your butt on the chair or on the cushion. And then really letting gravity have its way with the rest of your body. So that the shoulders soften and drop. And the belly can be soft. Maybe first attending to your back, noticing the length of the spine. Long muscles along either side of the spine. And we can feel a certain, strength. Not physical strength so much. That's just an innate strength. Uprightness. Equanimity. We need a strong back to function in this world. So you can feel that sense of balance or stability there. Not trying too hard, just a natural stableness. And then maybe bringing your attention around to the front of your body, your belly and chest. Can be a soft front that allows Oh, the qualities of vulnerability and tenderness to show themselves. Strong back, soft front. We need a strong back to have an open front, to be receptive to the world. Strong back, soft front. And you can feel with the support of your back, the stability, with the equanimity of the back, the strength of the back, we can open to altruism and compassion and tenderness, mercy. We can open our hearts. Strong back, soft front. Not rigidity in the back, stability, equanimity, strength. In the front of the body, some kind of softness or opening. Vulnerability not as weakness, but as porousness. Allowing the beauty and horror of the world to penetrate, to impress itself on our soul. Strong back, soft front. Nothing extra. Nothing has to be added. These qualities are already here. Just see which way you're aware of them. How are you aware of them? How do you sense strength? How do you experience vulnerability? Strong back, soft front. So these last 2 weeks, I've been with 3 dear friends and their families who were dealing with their death. And it was hard. This week, I was telling Robert in the car on the way in, I just didn't want to be human. I just sucked being human. And then, well, it's all I got, so I had to be human. You want more volume? Yeah. Can somebody do that? Thank you. Is that any better in the back? I tend to speak softly. Still more? More. I want more. Yeah. That's part of being human too. Okay, now way in the back. You hear me, yes? All right, thumbs up. Okay, good. So anyway, in these situations that I'm describing, not wanting to be human, anyway, it was humbling. You know, I'm supposed to know how to do this, but I got lost a lot when my dear friends were dying. And even that, I'm supposed to know how to do that. You know, I started a Zen hospice. I'm supposed to know how to do that, but I got lost a lot. So I had to be kind to myself, merciful with myself. Not easy when you're screwing up. I thought tonight I would, because of all that, speak a little bit about forgiveness, since it's something I've needed to practice this week. I think it's one of the most misunderstood practices we know. It's not really a Buddhist practice, you know, it's mostly in the Judeo-Christian tradition, forgiveness. And I think it's misunderstood because we mostly think of it as excusing bad behavior or, you know, condoning something or reconciling with somebody who's been a wrongdoer in our lives. But I don't think it's about any of those things. I think it gets tangled up in religion, gets tangled up in superiority also. I'm the one who's going to forgive. I'm the generous one, yeah? And in psychology, it gets tangled up in outcome. You know, forgiveness is going to lead us to a particular outcome, a therapeutic goal. I don't find that to be helpful. And also, I should say at the beginning that I don't think forgiveness is, well, it's very helpful for many of us. It's not necessarily for everyone. And maybe especially for people who are dealing with a lot of trauma. Yeah. You know, there are some religious traditions that I know, some movements I know, cultural organizations that I know, whose leaders make a demand for forgiveness of their congregants, of their participants. And often they do that at the expense of a person who's trying to heal. And often it's about protecting the perpetrator or the organization. I've been around those organizations that do that. And even I know some organizations where the person who's been harmed is asked to sit in front of their perpetrator and forgive them, saying that it's good for their spiritual development. When I was a boy, I was sexually abused for a lot of years, as a lot of people were, by a priest. And I was told by another priest when I went to confession that I should confess this, so that the priest, not me, that the priest who did this would be open to God's forgiveness. Yeah. So I think of forgiveness as a non-sectarian practice. And it's a way of opening my heart to the pain that I have caused or have been hurt by. In many ways, it's about looking at the ugliest part of my life and touching it with some degree of mercy. Yeah. And I think of it as a relative practice that leads me to an ultimate truth. And, it may begin as we traditionally do, asking someone for forgiveness or extending our forgiveness. Those are things that happen. But in the end, for me, it's always about self-forgiveness. Do you hear that in the back? It's always about self-forgiveness for me. Might be different for you. I was talking with someone this week about this community in Japan of women, and they're called the AMA, A-M-A, AMA. And they're like free divers. And they come down, they've been doing it for hundreds of years, this community of women. And they come down to the shore and they swim out into the sea, into the dark sea. And they take a deep breath, like a free diver would. And they dive down very deep into the darkness. And sometimes they come back up with abalone or sea creatures or seafood and sometimes oysters with a pearl inside them. Yeah. And I personally think that's a kind of beautiful metaphor for what can happen to each of us when we dive deep into our wounds. And often there find a pearl that can be helpful to us in our own healing, but also might help us to build an empathetic bridge to others with similar wounds. And when we do that, we can become commonly called the wounded healer. Yeah. But what I see instead of that oftentimes is people who have not done that work and continue wounding people because of their own unexplored, unhealed, unforgiven aspects of themselves. Yeah. Wounds that are not transformed are transmitted to others. Yeah. So again, for me, all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. It's been so in my life anyway. And I think this self-forgiveness is more than just self-acceptance. It's a nice term, self-acceptance, but sometimes what that means is we just tolerate ourselves and we just go on doing this, making the same mistakes and hurting people again and again, including ourselves. So forgiveness, self-forgiveness feels different to me. It's a way to, again, meet with mercy that which has been only touched by fear or indulgence. What I find is it hurts too much to keep myself out of my own heart. Years ago, when we first started Zen Hospice, we didn't have a hospice yet. We just had a room upstairs in the San Francisco Zen Center and courtyard that people used to gather in. And the very first patient we ever took care of, her name was Stella. I met her at San Francisco General Hospital. I was on my way to see another patient that we were supposed to admit to the hospice. And I just saw her sitting there in a wheelchair. And I said, "What's your story?" Like that. I just sat down. She said, "Oh, I had cancer and I'm dying and, I don't know what's going to happen." And so I asked the social workers and the nurses there about her. And they said, "Yeah, we don't have a place for her." I said, "Well, why don't she come live with us?" And so she did. Next day, she moved in. We gave her a room at Zen Center and we hung out with her, basically. And At first, she thought it was a medical facility because everybody had shaved heads. And she was going bald, so she figured that's what was going on here. But no. And we had a lot of very well-meaning Buddhist practitioners who would come to her and say, just let go, Stella, just let go. One of the other ones would come in and they'd say, just love, Stella, just love. And she'd come up to me and she said, Frank, these people are coming and telling me, just let go, just love. What do I do first? I said, I don't know, but I bet you'll figure it out, Stella. I don't give too many answers. Anyway, she wanted to connect with her brother. His name was Rusty, and he was a cowboy. He rode the rodeo circuit. And this was before we could, look somebody up on the internet. So we had to call around and called all these rodeos and finally found him. And I said, hey, look, your sis is dying and she wants to see you. They hadn't seen each other in maybe 20 years. Anyway, one night he arrived at Zen Center, big silver belt buckle, snakeskin boots. And he says, what kind of a place is this? You got my sis. I said, come on in, and I brought him upstairs to her room, but he couldn't go in. He couldn't go in. And so we gave him a bed for the night. And next morning, we hung out in the courtyard, Zen Center, smoking cigarettes and talking. The people at Zen Center were really mad at me for this. They thought, is this how this hospice is going to go? And anyway, so I just sat in the courtyard with him and asked them a little bit about their history and stuff, And he began to tell me the story of their lives. They'd been abandoned at birth. They lived in an orphanage, foster homes. They had a tough life. And he'd been really abusive to her in lots of ways. And this story just poured out, over an hour or two in the courtyard. And honestly, it was our very first patient. I thought, what the hell am I supposed to do? I don't know about this. I'm not a priest. I'm not a therapist. What do? I don't know what to do. A friend of mine and I had a preschool when our kids were babies. And her grandfather was a guy by the name of Carl Rogers, very famous humanist psychologist. Yeah. And Carl was amazing. He used to come play in the sandbox with the kids, but I used to watch his films and I'd watch him work with people. And I swear he healed them just by listening, just by listening. And so that was the only training I ever had, was watching his films and playing in the sandbox with him. So I used to carry a quote of his with me for years. And it went like this. He says, before every session, I take a moment to remember my humanity. That there's no experience that this person is having that I cannot share with them. No fear that I cannot understand, no suffering I cannot care about, because I too am human. And no matter how deep their wound, they do not need to be ashamed of it in front of me. Because I too am vulnerable. Sorry. You are. Well, scoot up here, but also, can we turn up the sound? I can't. I'm sorry, I don't know that he's going to do that for you. Okay? So next time, say, hey, turn up the sound, will you? Anyway, so Carl's saying these things. He says, no matter how deep the wound. I'm sorry. What is it? I can't hear you. It's garbled and fuzzy. Can we do something about that? Yeah, well, it's because we're turning the volume up so high now. There's a couple of cushions right here. Come on up. There's some seats and cushions. Come on. Some of you come on up here. This is intimate work. We cannot do this from a distance. So come on up here. Sit on someone's lap. Seriously, just come on up. There's plenty of other chairs and lots of space. Because I don't want you to miss this. So I'm going to say this again. I want you to hear it. Carl's words. He says, before every session, I take a moment to remember my humanity. And there's no experience that this person is having that I cannot share with them. No fear that I cannot understand, no suffering that I cannot care about because I too am human. No matter how deep their wound, they do not need to be ashamed of it in front of me because I too am vulnerable. And because of this, I'm enough. And whatever their story, they no longer need to be alone in it. And that's what will allow the healing to begin. And so listening to Rusty, that's what I tried to do. And after it came out, I said, how about we go upstairs and see your sis? And remember, he hadn't been able to even go in the room. So we go upstairs and we go in the room. He pulls up a chair next to his sis. And they small talk for a bit, talk about the rodeos, stuff like that, And then he says, sis, there's something I've been wanting to tell you, but I'm not good with words. I can't tell it to you. I want to say it, but I can't say it. I don't know how to say it. And I thought, wow, here it comes. And then Stella did the most amazing thing. Remember, this was the person who was trying to understand between love and let go. And she put up her hand like this, And she said, look, in this place, I have someone who feeds me. I have someone who takes care of my pain. I have all that I need. There's no blame. Wow. And I felt like in that moment, a whole lifetime had been forgiven. Stella didn't condone his actions. She didn't say, oh, it's all okay, don't worry about it. What she was saying is, I'm dying, and I don't want to carry this into my dying. I want my heart to be free. I think love is the lubricant that causes us or enables us to let go. You can't love and cling at the same time. Sometimes we mistake that, though. We mistake attachment for love. Because attachment masquerades as love. It looks like it's like a cheap handbag, though. It's a knockoff. It's not the real thing. Attachment says, I'll love you if. It's obsessed with getting its needs met. Love is focused on generosity. Love's an expression of our deepest, most essential nature. Attachment's an expression of our personality and our small, separate self. Love is selfless and it encourages freedom. Attachment's self-centered and it engenders possessiveness. Attachment leaves scars. Love inclines us to gratitude. So Stella didn't forget anything that happened to her. She wasn't condoning any of his actions. She just wanted to be released from the pain in her heart. The resentment she'd been carrying all these years. And so For her, it wasn't even about him. She just knew to be free, she had to forgive. It was all about self-forgiveness for her. She didn't want to carry it anymore. We can be very loyal to our suffering. Have you noticed that? My pain, the things that have hurt me, the hurt I've caused others, the suffering I endure. And I can be very loyal to it, but we don't have to let our old hurts define who we are now. They can be set down. We can leave it behind. A whole lifetime can be released in a moment like it was with Stella, but I don't think that's how it normally works. I think in 99% of the cases, it takes much longer. It takes a lot of attention and a whole lot of touching what hurts with mercy. You know, the classic image that's given is a fist that you open. That's forgiveness. Setting down old pain, like you've been holding a hot coal in your hand and you open your hand and the coal drops. That's the image that's used a lot, you know. It's a good one. But I remember being with this woman, her name, that I met in Golden Gate Park. She was living in the bushes in Golden Gate Park. And I would hang out with her, and then she had brain cancer, and her partner had thrown her out. And her family wouldn't take care of her because they thought it was a taboo to take care of this Asian woman. And so she lived in the park. And I invited her to come live with us at the hospice. And anyway, I remember one day we were talking about her family and how hard it had been and all that stuff. And I talked about forgiveness with her, and I used this image of the hot coal and setting down old pain. And she said to me, I never thought about setting down old pain. I said, well, what would you think of? She said, well, I just thought, I want to be able to love again. And this is in the way. So even with these few words, we all probably agree that forgiveness is a good thing, mostly. Again, I think there are situations in which it's not suitable. But mostly, we would agree it's pretty good. So how come we don't do it? That interests me. Rather than giving you some, melting meditation about forgiveness, I'd rather find out what gets in the way. What are the prohibitions for forgiveness? What gets in between you and forgiveness? What prevents you from forgiving? How come we don't do it? Of course, the first thing is we confuse forgiving with forgetting. We're afraid that if we forgive, we'll forget and the pain will happen again. We'll either cause pain to someone else or they'll cause pain to us. It's not the same as forgetting forgiveness. Or we think it's about condoning bad habits. Not so. So I want to know, honestly, from you. You have a microphone, right? Okay, you're going to hold it and move around, or somebody else is going to hold it and move around. Renee, can you do it? Where are you? Oh, there, okay. All right, good. It's on. The microphone is turned on, good. All right, so hang on. So this is what I want to know. I just want to know briefly from you, a sentence or two, what gets in the way? What gets in between you and forgiveness? That's what I want to know. Okay, so raise your hand and just in a few words, what gets in the way?
For me, if it's a small thing, I can forgive.
Yeah.
But if it's a big thing and the person doesn't take accountability, I can't forgive.
Okay, so you want them to be accountable for
Right.
whatever they did.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so hang on. Just slow down. I want to talk to her. So you want them to be accountable. How come?
I want acknowledgement of the wrong done,
So you want him or them to acknowledge it for you.
right?
How come? No,
It's a
I think it's true what
recognition.
you're saying, but I want to know. It's one of the
I mean,
it's one of the big prohibitions. So I want to know what you know about it. How come?
I think it's just shows that I am seen,
You're seen
right?
by the person who hurt you.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. So you want to be seen, and you want to be particularly you want to be seen by this person, not somebody else. This person.
correct.
Okay. All right. So that's what gets in the way. All right. Somebody else. What gets in the way? There's somebody over here. Yeah. Thank you.
Anger.
Hi.
Did you hear that? I'm anger.
I'm sorry.
Anger.
Anger gets in the way. Okay. But how does it get in the way? Anger. Like what are you angry about?
Say that again?
What are you angry about? I mean, you don't have to tell me the story, but I mean, in that moment, how come anger gets in the way? You want something to happen to that person? Let's be real. Maybe you want that person to be punished or to be hurt in some way.
I think it's kind of complex because I don't want the person hurt, and I don't even know if I want acknowledgement. But it's like I go through this process of like, okay, I'm spiritual. I should forgive this person, even they're a fucking asshole. And then I'm like, no, wait a minute. That's not true to me because that's not true to me.
All right.
Like to forgive that person.
Yeah.
And so I've done a lot of stuff for myself. I've sat with like, well, how does this feel for you?
Yeah.
And how does it feel to like think, like the world says to me, I should forgive that person for transgressing.
All right. Good. Thank you.
And I don't want to forgive that person
Yeah.
because I feel like it it somehow releases them from their responsibility, but that's not even the most important thing. It doesn't honor how I'm still grappling with how I feel about it.
Okay, great. So the culture at large, let's call it, or some traditions, spiritual traditions, or some psychological schools say you should forgive. That would be better for you.
Well, and I also feel like it's a gender thing, like women are supposed to be more forgiving. And I once transgressed by a man.
Yeah.
Not sexually or anything like that, but it was something where it was egregious. And it's like, oh, I'm just supposed to roll over again, like the
Right.
fucking gender thing. Like, no, I don't want to do that. I am angry because I was treated this way because specifically I'm a woman,
Yeah.
and he felt entitled to treat me a certain way. So
Right. So that's
I'm angry at a larger thing, but I'm also like trying to be very aware of how I'm dealing with my own forgiveness and anger around the situation.
got it. And thank you for pointing out that this is often a gender issue, right? Absolutely. And I'm suspicious of forgiveness that comes too quickly, that jumps over rage or anger that might be necessary. That might be, we were doing the meditation of strong back. Well, sometimes where you find the strength is in your anger. You don't need the anger, but you need the strength. We need the strength to navigate in this world and to stand up on our own behalf, for example, as you might need to do in this case. So sometimes we find that in our anger. So I'm suspicious of it if we jump over that too quickly and do some kind of spiritual bypass.
But what's fascinating is this happens to be a neighbor of mine, so I'm in communication, or not communication, but I see this person, and I am more challenged. He's whatever.
Yeah.
I'm more challenged by my own inner argument by like, oh, I should be forgiving him,
Yeah.
or I should be, like if I were really this. And so it's more about my own inner dialogue and how I'm not forgiving myself for being so angry.
Yeah. Okay.
know?
This is why I think forgiveness is about self-forgiveness.
Yeah, and I like that you said
Yeah.
that.
So my friend Stephen Levine used to say, we've been shit on enough, without continuing to happen, of course. So beautiful, and thank you for bringing this up. So my anger, it's not a prohibition, but I'm not ready for that yet. I'm here, and I need to be here first with this rage, with this anger, whatever's, the appropriate response in this case. And then maybe something else will change. But first I got to know this. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
But it's uncomfortable.
Sorry?
It's uncomfortable.
It's impossible?
No, it's uncomfortable to sit
uncomfortable.
in it because
Totally
I-
uncomfortable.
yeah.
I mean, let me just remind us all here, including myself, this is not comfortable work. I mean, forgiveness is a fierce fucking practice, excuse me, but it is not a Hallmark card. This is the hardest work you may ever do. To come toward oneself and all the stuff we got going on, like you're describing, and to meet that with some mercy, that takes sometimes years. So it's not something I just do in a 15-minute meditation and think it's done. This has taken me years to work on to work on self-forgiveness until I could finally believe it. I had to keep saying it and doing it to practice it intently, regularly, endlessly, until I could begin to know it was true. Before I could know it was true. Yeah. Good
Thank
for
you.
Okay, somebody else. What gets in the way? Let's be real with each other. Okay.
What came up for me was fear, actually.
Fear.
Yeah, kind of like fear of what's next. Like it's kind of coming back to what you were saying, like, would I be enough
Yeah.
without my fear?
Well, that's interesting, huh?
Yeah.
So who would I be if I forgave?
Yeah.
I mean, I got an identity that's tied up with this.
Mm-hmm.
And who am I going to, how will my friends know me? How will I know myself if I forgive this thing? If I set that down?
Yeah, and my first experience of forgiving myself took a vision quest.
Say
3
it again. I'm
days.
sorry, I didn't hear that
It took a vision quest.
On a vision quest,
Yeah, it was 3 days of no food and no water by myself. And then finally I got to the end of it and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to forgive myself. That's what I need to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes about in lots of different ways, and maybe it's through some kind of process like you just described. It's like I was telling Robert in the car on the way in, when I'm working with dying people, he's like, we were talking about surrender. And I said, when I'm working with dying people, everybody says just surrender. Well, that's crap. You think it's so easy, you surrender. I mean, surrender is different than letting go. Letting go, we feel like we distance ourselves from something, an object or a situation or a person. Surrender is different. Surrender is we come closer, actually, more intimate. And surrender might be brought about by religious practice or a vision quest, all kinds of things, but mostly it's brought about by exhaustion. That's what I've seen. People get too tired. They can't keep it up anymore. The fight, they cease the battle because it's too damn hard. And then they surrender. And then something else opens, another door opens. So I don't think it's something we can just choose to do. I think it's something that comes out of a process or happens to us almost, as a way to think about it. Yeah. Okay, thank you for your...
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's be real. What else gets in the way? What about justice? The desire for justice. I want them to pay, or retribution. Yeah? Does anybody have that one? You have that one, yeah. I do too. Yeah. Yeah. But forgiveness isn't about justice. justice might be necessary, but if that's not what forgiveness is. Justice may never come. You know, I worked with refugees in Guatemala in horrible conditions. And I saw a lot of miserable, unnecessary dying. And there was never justice. Never justice. You know, I flew in a helicopter with a colonel who flew over the Guatemalan near Chaban, where I was, and they'd created concentration camps for all the people in that area. And they would put them out as cannon fire in front of the battle. There was never any justice for that. It never got resolved. There was never any retribution. But I knew I needed to forgive the hatred I felt because it was completely consuming my life. So I did it for me, not for them. Okay, sorry. Microphone. Who's got it?
Frank, you don't ever have to apologize to me.
Can you hold it up really close so I can hear you?
Hi, can you hear me?
I think so.
Okay. First, I said you never have to apologize to me.
You want them to apologize.
You never have to apologize to me.
Can somebody hear that? I couldn't understand it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Here we go.
How come I never have to apologize?
Just because you have my heart. You have my heart. Not too many people never have to apologize to
Oh,
me.
I see.
Okay.
I didn't feel like I needed to apologize. I felt, well, I won't tell you the whole story, but there was a situation in which I was working in a clinic with a student doctor, and a kid came into that clinic with appendicitis, and he needed a surgery. It was 5 hours away by Jeep. So I went to that colonel's house, who had flown me around in a helicopter because I had a press card in those days. And I knocked on his door and I said, you know, this kid needs to go to the hospital. Can you take him? Figuring he wouldn't turn down me, you know, press gringo guy. And he like, son indígenas, you know, they're Indians. Like, what? They were like less than human. And he slammed the door.
Mm.
And I sort of, I mean, I can't tell you all the hatred I felt for that man.
Mm.
And, you know, well, I'll tell you the rest of the story. I came home. My son was about 2 years old at the time. And I was listening to the radio. The president at the time, Reagan, was talking about all the good things the Americans were doing for the people of Guatemala.
Mm.
And I started screaming at the radio. And I saw my son in the corner covering his ears.
Mm.
And I knew I had to stop the war. And it wasn't the war in Central America, it was the war in my own heart.
Mm.
So the forgiveness wasn't for them. I had to work with them, with that colonel. I had a picture of him. I had to work with that picture. I put his picture on my altar, and I worked with him. But I never condoned anything he did.
Mm.
Never condoned it. But I had to work with forgiveness. It took me 3 years before I could honestly say, I forgive you, Frank. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. My question is going back to self. And we were just talking about exhaustion. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
What if you're too exhausted to forgive? Like, I can't do it again. Like, I keep forgiving myself and I keep fucking up.
Yeah.
And I'm exhausted and I'm afraid.
Yeah. So, to me, I don't think of forgiveness as, you know, magic wand stuff. I think this is, I look at the parts of myself that are too hard to look at. And I try to look at them with some degree of mercy. I don't try and do metta practice and send it away because I've touched metta fairy dust on them. You know, that's not metta. That's aversion. So for me, it's meant letting in the part that is really difficult for me to see about myself. and to touch that with mercy. That's the beginning of forgiveness. Yeah. And I will screw up 10,000 more times. Maybe, in Zen, we do a chant every morning. And it goes something like, all my ancient twisted karma, I now avow. Beginningless greed, hatred, and delusion. Born of body, speech, and mind. Yeah. It means this has been going on forever. I didn't create it. I didn't create greed, hatred, and delusion. I am subject to it, though. In my relationship to it, I have to work with my relationship to it, but I didn't create it. I'm not guilty of creating greed, hatred, and delusion. I just have to be mindful of how I relate to it, how I enact it sometimes. Yeah. Okay, I want to give somebody else a turn to speak. Who else wants to raise a hand? Way back over here, where'd you go? Oh, okay.
I'll be
we'll go
quick.
back to
Resentment.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Resentment?
Resentment, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? Well, how is it for you, resentment?
Well, it feels similar to anger, but more quiet, kind of more in the background, kind of just this toxic, like under the subconscious kind of thing. Like I resent my dad for being neglectful. I'm not really angry with him. I just kind of, I don't know. Yeah, just still sort of just bitter.
Yeah. And can I ask you, just without going into the whole story, does it feel justifiable, your resentment?
I believe it is.
Sorry?
I believe so.
Okay, so that's another piece of this. Our own justifying of our, it's not that, again, we're not condoning the actions. The actions may be wrong. They will always be wrong, perhaps. They were ignorant, they're drawn out of ignorance and fear and all kinds of ugly things. But the individual, maybe we can forgive that without condoning any of the actions. So I don't condone the actions that I've done that are wrong, but I think that it's reasonable, not just reasonable, I am deserving of forgiveness, regardless of my actions. I helped to lead a retreat at Auschwitz-Birkenau. For 150 people from all over the world came, and we sat on the tracks of Birkenau for 10 days. I've never been in a place of such ugliness, the worst of the human condition. There's a photo that I used to focus on. Every day I would go and stand by this photo. It was a photo of the commandant at his own trial at Nuremberg. And this commandant used to walk through the camp with his Luger and just shoot people randomly with his, with his children in tow. I mean, how do you justify that? It's not justifiable. But how will it hurt me to keep holding to this resentment? I remember reading something by the Dalai Lama after I'd done those retreats, and he was at Auschwitz, and he said something so humble, and I wish I could have known this when I was there. He said, "I'm so glad I wasn't born to be a prison guard. I don't know what kind of ugliness I might have created, what kind of hurt and damage I would have created." And what he was saying is that these causes and conditions led to these people, to the ignorance and the fear and the ugliness that generated those actions. Doesn't justify them. But he was saying, that could have been me. Could have been me. So I want to be free. That's what I want. I want to be free. And if I'm holding on to this, whatever it is, my resentment, my anger, all these things, it may be necessary not to jump over them, but also I want to see how they contract my heart and how they keep me trapped. Thank you for your honesty. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Robert, quickly, and then we want to go to this person in the corner. Robert, what do you got to say?
You know, we were talking before about working with the incarcerated and years and years of guilt and shame and remorse that are just packed on top of each other, right? And in the practice we do in there, we try to hold space for the fact that it's already done, but holding on to it is just not beneficial, right? It's not that, and so we're not absolving them, but when you look at like where their programming came from, what were they working with, you know? So forgiveness is this huge release for people in there if they can get themselves to go there, because it's already done, but holding on to it is this loop of pain.
Yeah.
And some people are able to, but you have to be fully immersed. It's not a transcendence. You have to go all the way in and feel it before you can heal it, you know?
Right. You can't just pretend that it doesn't work, you know? But, you know, we can regrow ourselves. That's how I would say it. We can regrow ourselves, and forgiveness can be part of that process. I don't think it's the right practice for everyone, and again, I'm suspicious of it coming too quickly. And mostly it's about my relationship to me. Yeah, it's got to be real. Okay, there was someone over there. There you are. Thank you for raising your hand again.
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
What gets in the way for me is shame.
Shame.
The way I feel about myself. I think I can be really discerning when it comes to forgiving others. Like I can take it all the way down to wherever their pain started. But as far as for myself, the shame I feel, and when I try to give myself metta or have tea with Mara, I still have some disciplinarian inside of me that says you should have known better.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'd like to add, no, you keep it for a second. Keep the microphone for a second. Yeah. One of the things I want to add to your commentary, which thank you for saying that about shame. One of the things that allows people to do things like what they did in Auschwitz is because there is no shame. Some of the things that are going on now in our world is because there's an absence of shame. Now, one thing that we can do with shame is we can really beat ourselves up with it pretty badly. And here I think there's a difference between remorse and this kind of shame that you're speaking of, which we beat ourselves up with, you know, this kind of whipping ourselves. Remorse is, for me, it's a feeling like I want to feel remorse. I want to know the sadness of the pain I've caused because I don't want to do it again. And the only way I can know that is to feel into, whatever it is the pain I've caused, either to myself or to others. And so for me, this feels like a healthy thing as opposed to guilt and regret even. Yeah. So I think there's a value to shame. I think there's even a value to public shame. But I think the quiet, secret shame that we beat ourselves up with doesn't have much value after a while. And, you know, what feeds that kind of shame is secrecy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right behind you.
Thanks for this conversation. I think that the lack of forgiveness can be a really hard protective shell.
Say that last part again.
It can be a hard protective shell.
Yeah.
And to forgive is this terrifying opening to I might fucking get hurt again.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do open to that.
Yeah. The challenge, of course, is we have this idea that if I forgive, I will be hurt again. That's the shorthand, right? But forgiveness doesn't mean we have to be a doormat, or that we have to be stupid, that we can't, stand on our own behalf and say no. Forgiveness doesn't preclude a no. Yeah, it doesn't condone bad actions, and it doesn't preclude. It's about finding a way of touching what hurts instead of just enduring it. Like I came from a background, my family history, without going into it, I learned to endure. I can endure pain, I can endure emotional upset, I can endure mental. That was like my MO. And I thought it was the way to get through the world until I realized how much pain it was causing me. And I didn't get that until I was on retreat, you know. And even on retreat, I had amazing concentration in the early days. I could sit for days, literally. And what was happening was there would be so much physical pain from the endurance that the pain would get very concentrating, and I would get extremely concentrated, and I could watch the pain very precisely. But I wasn't getting any insight into the pain. I wasn't learning from the endurance. So, yeah, what is it that frightens me? Oh, that it'll happen again? How can I be skillful so that doesn't happen again? And at the same time, not disregard myself. Yeah. Okay, I'd like to try something. I don't know if are you willing to try something? You don't even know what it is, and people are shaking their heads. I'd actually like to do an exercise on forgiveness, and it's not a meditation. It's something we would do with a partner. And so anybody who wants to pass on this can pass on this. But if you're willing to do it, then, and if you want to pass, it's okay, but stay in the room and watch, okay? So to do this, you'll need a partner, and we'll do a little short exercise on forgiveness. And yeah, so okay, so let's do this. First, get a partner and turn toward them, so you're not sideways to them. If you can move your chairs, if not, just turn your head. Okay. All right. Shh. Okay. Let's see if I can remember this. Okay. So let's come back to a little. What's going to happen here in a moment is that one of you is going to speak and the other is going to listen. The other person who's listening is just going to listen. They're not going to make any commentary. They're not going to try and make you feel better. They're not going to touch your face and say, "Aren't you sweet?" They're just going to listen. Okay? And the other person is going to tell the truth. So let's all just find a position in which we can be, like we're going to meditate again, in which we can be alert and awake. Okay, so settle in for a sec. So everybody, I want you to decide between the two of you right now who's going to speak first and who's going to listen. Okay, that's really simple. Just decide who's going to be one, who's going to be two. Okay? All right, good, that's done. All right, so now settling back in for a second. Settling back in. Okay, now just be aware of the breath for a second. The sensation of the breath, not the thought of the breath, but the direct experience. Wherever you feel it most easily. Maybe it's at the tip of the nostrils, or maybe it's in the rising of the chest, the way the ribs lift and separate, or maybe it's down in the belly and the diaphragm. Wherever you feel it most easily, just bring your attention there. And just attending to the sensations, the physical sensations of breathing. You're aware of the silence as well. And just the quality of openness, let's call it, in which these sensations are arising, and sound is arising and passing away, thoughts are coming and going. So there's a sense of space. You don't have to make it, it's already there. Okay, now I want to speak to the people who are going to speak first. So you're going to talk for just a few minutes. First, I want you to reflect on some moment or some activity in your life that it's difficult for you to forgive yourself for. Not some big heavy thing, some small thing, not the big trauma of your life, because we don't want to open that up tonight. And we don't want to overwhelm your partner with it. Something that's you're willing to speak about, but that there's some absence of forgiveness or difficulty forgiving yourself for. Just reflect on that for a minute. You can review it in your mind's eye. Again, not the biggest, heaviest thing. Everybody's got something. In a few minutes, I'm going to ask you to share that with your partner. We're just going to do it for a few minutes, not a long time. So let it be brief, and don't just name it, but say something about it. Say how it's, as you're speaking it, how does it feel emotionally? What are the sensations in your body as you share this with them? What other thoughts does it generate? Okay? Now we're going to do this in a very soft voice so that we don't have a cacophony of sound here in the room. We're just going to be aware of the three centers of our belly, our heart, and our head. And you're just going to take a moment. And the person who's listening is just going to listen. I have more instructions for you, but I just want, for a few minutes, for this person to share with you the story of something that's difficult for them to forgive about themselves. And we're going to just do it for 3 or 4 minutes so that it doesn't overwhelm the other person and it doesn't go on too long. Nothing too heavy. Okay? All right, so when you're ready, you can open your eyes, both of you, if they've been closed. The speaker will just share something about that's difficult for them to forgive, okay? Just take a few minutes to do that. Three. Okay, just pause for a second. Just pause. I know I've interrupted you, but just be silent. Come to silence for a second. Beautiful, thank you. I know that was really short. Now I want to speak to the people who are the listeners. This is really important. I'm going to ask you as the listener to do something very simple. You're going to say a phrase. It's really simple, but in order to do it, you have to believe it. In order to do it effectively, you have to believe it. And the phrase that I want you to say is, "You are forgiven." Not, "I forgive you." It's not your job. You are forgiven. I want you to look this person in the eyes. In just a minute, we'll start it. And just say, "You are forgiven." Now, you might have to do this 3 or 4 times until you see if it's landed. You're not trying to impose it on someone. You're not trying to get them to do something. That's really important. You're just offering the possibility of forgiveness. You are forgiven. You are forgiven. You are forgiven. Okay? That's all you have to do. And you don't have to hug them or do anything else. You're just going to say those things. This is not you doing the forgiving. It's offering them the possibility of forgiveness. Okay? So we're just going to do this for a few minutes and just see how we go. Okay? So take your time. Don't rush it. Don't make something happen. Just look them in the eye. You are forgiven. And again, it might need to say it 2 or 3 times before you feel like it's landed. Okay? All right. When you're ready, go ahead. Take your time. When you feel it's landed, just come to silence. Don't get into a conversation. Just come to silence when you feel like it's done. Okay. Don't take care of them. Just let it be their experience, okay? All right. Now, we're going to reverse roles, and we're going to do the same thing. So for the person who was the listener, you now become the speaker. And I want you to just come into your body for a second. Feel the physicality of your body. Feel your heart a little bit. And I'd ask everybody no one to leave, please. Right now, I want you to think about something that might be difficult for you to forgive yourself for. Maybe it has to do with a relationship. It often does, but you see what's true for you. Not the biggest thing, just something that you're willing to speak about to this other person. And you can just speak to them about in a few minutes, okay? All right, everybody's got something. All right, now the listener, remember, your job is just to listen. You're not trying to intervene. You're not trying to do anything. You're just listening in this first part so that the person really feels you're there and present for them. So to do that, you have to be present for yourself. Okay. So when you're ready, let the speaker share a little bit about what it is that might be difficult for them to forgive themselves for. One person speaks only. Only one person speaking. Okay, just pause, come to silence. Just come to silence for a second. Okay, now I want to speak to the people who've been listening. Yeah? I'm going to ask you to do a very simple thing, to say one phrase to this other person. And to do that, you have to believe it. The phrase is, you are forgiven. Not I forgive you. That's not your job. You are forgiven is to just open the possibility. It's an invitation to forgiveness. And you'll say it once and then maybe you'll pause. Or maybe it'll be necessary to say, that'll be enough. Or maybe you'll say it again. You might need to say it 3 or 4 or 5 times until it lands. You're not trying to impose anything. You're just offering the possibility of forgiveness. Heart to heart. This is heart to heart work. This is not a conversation. This is you saying to this person, you are forgiven. You are forgiven. Just opening that possibility, okay? All right, we'll do this for a few minutes. And when you feel like it's landed, just stop. And both of you go into silence, okay? Stay in silence until the group is finished. All right, when you're ready, go ahead. Make it real. Just be real with one another. Try and keep eye contact if you can. No conversation, okay? Just let this hang in there. You are forgiven. Okay. Now, if there's any particular way you want to thank your partner, go ahead and do that. Can we get that microphone again? Michael. Okay. Let me point. Okay, we have just a few minutes before we have to end. So I just want to find out just a little bit of feedback. Okay, we'll get to that, okay? Let's do this, please. Okay. So stay on your seats. Hang out for just a few more minutes, okay? I just want to hear from one or two people about what the experience was like for them, okay? So if you're willing to speak just very briefly, just raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you. Right there. Can you see? Just very briefly, what was the experience like?
The experience was great.
Everybody could quiet down so we can hear him.
It was difficult to just not want to embrace the person that you're working with, or hold their hand. The instructions were just do nothing, and just tell them that they are forgiven, and you want to.
So that was a little difficult, not to embrace them.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes I train therapists, and the hardest thing for therapists to learn how to do is to not fix it for the other person.
Right.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. I'm going to be a little brief because I want to hear from some other people. Who else wants to speak about what it was like for you? What was it like to just say you are forgiven, or to receive that? Here in the front.
Thank you.
Hold it like an ice cream.
I was surprised that you asked us to speak about something that's hard for us to forgive about ourselves, because I was all prepared for the other story.
Yeah.
Which is easier. So tapping into what I can't forgive myself for was quite a challenge. And I found that it was very freeing to speak about something that I'm really ashamed of. Mm-hmm. And I feel that the work of forgiving the other, which is a big piece for me, will be easier as a result.
Maybe. So if you couldn't hear that, she was saying that, first of all, she was ready to prepare to forgive someone else or to ask for forgiveness, but to forgive oneself was challenging because of the shame and other things around this. And that was freeing for you because it also helped you to think, oh, it might be easier for me to forgive others when I've done this work with myself. That's a possibility.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, what was it right behind you? Let's just go right behind you so we go quick.
Thank you for that experience. When I was receiving the "you are forgiven," I could feel body sensations through my body, some kind of chills that helped me feel like something was shifting. And then when we just kind of finished and did both turns, I wasn't sure, is any of this going to sink in and stick with me? But what I really felt that was powerful was when I was saying, "you are forgiven," and how much in my heart and soul I wanted this for this person. And so what's resonating with me is, because that's a little bit more tangible for me right now, is to take that in for myself.
Yeah, beautiful. So that's why we do it that way. It isn't that you're forgiving the other person. It's reminding you as a speaker that this is a possibility for myself. And for the listener, for the other person, for them to feel the invitation that, oh, I could maybe do this. I haven't been able to do this until now, but maybe I could do this. Maybe there's a possibility that I could actually forgive myself for this, whatever it is. You fill in the blanks after this. Yeah.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
All right. I'm going to be conscious of time because we have to end in just a second here. But I'm sorry that we had to go a little quickly with this, but you can see the possibilities here. And you don't need another person to do this. It's not like something from down high is saying you are forgiven. You are forgiven. I am forgiven. I forgive you. Speaking to oneself. You don't need to do this. You don't need someone else to do this. It's not about other work. And I want to add this last little piece. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. They're really different processes. Reconciliation is an entirely different thing. Forgiveness takes one. Reconciliation takes two or more. Yeah? Reconciliation is a whole other process that it may involve forgiveness, but it also involves apology and accountability and making and remorse we were talking about earlier, and the commitment not to do harm again. That's reconciliation. That's another night's discussion. This is not that. This is about touching what has been untouchable with mercy. Yeah? Not just acceptance, but the willingness to work with it. The willingness to work with what hurts. Yeah? Okay. I hope there's been some small usefulness in this evening for you. I hope so. Thank you for your willingness to trust me and to try these things. I really appreciate it. And as always, I'm very grateful to my dear friend Vinny for inviting me, and to all of you for including me again. And thank you for that. And let's close as we normally do with a dedication of merit, okay? And then we have an announcement to make, and we'll do that before we end. So if there's been any merit, any benefit that has come from our time together, our practice together, our vulnerability together, our learning together, let it go out over the world in all directions, touching all beings without favor. And that includes ourselves. May all beings and each of us know their true nature. May all beings and each of us be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings, including us, find our way to freedom. Thank you. Now, before we go, so who was it that someone had to make an announcement, and I forget who it was? There you are. Okay.
I just wanted to say, if anyone lost a jacket here last month, please see me. Did everybody hear that?
You lost a jacket last month. Please see her. Any other announcements we have to make before we go? Okay. Go ahead. What is it? And I'll try and repeat it. Oh, there we go.
It's on now. We have an online day-long with Vinny coming up on Zoom on Saturday, May 23rd. There is a QR code on the back table. Great opportunity to come and spend a Saturday and sit with the Sangha and with Vinny, May 23rd, online.
Okay. Last, as you know, this community and Vinny are allowed to or can continue the work because the gift of your generosity. Dana, it's called freely offered generosity, we could say. And so if that's something you can manage, it's not required, but if that's something you can manage, and it stretches your heart and means to do so, that's Dana. If you can do that, then there's, I think, Renee, they can just do it here in the back of the room, can't they? Yeah, at the tables where you came in. Yeah. So please support Big Heart City and Vinny. I have a great love for both Big Heart City and Vinny. Yeah. So thank you again for your trust and willingness to practice together. Thank you. Okay. Let's go out and do good things in the world.